All right, we're live, Dr. Kris. It's springtime. Looks like you're getting a little sun.
Hardly, Steve. I'm as white as a ghost. Well, thank you for saying that. I feel like
Yep.
I'm translucent right now. But yes, spring. This morning, I think it was 37, but I looked. I think this might be the last cold morning of the season. Hopefully it's going to be better. It's going to be 94 this weekend in our area, so that's good.
We'll see. It snowed here
Oh,
in
yeah.
Amarillo this weekend. We had some flurries, a couple of inches. It melted real quick, but there you go.
Yeah, y'all's weather's been really confused.
Yeah. Yeah, you go for a walk on a beautiful day, and the next day it snows. And
Well,
then-
hopefully soon, we'll all be kind of looking like your screen behind you.
Yeah, soon. Aspirational soon. If we're going to be in that location, then sometimes we feel a little bit self-conscious about that little thing around our belly. That's our conversation today. We're going to talk about weight loss debate, personalized care versus one size fits all. Let me roll the intro and then we'll start. If I can find it, here we go. If you're like most folks Dr. Kris Fusterhausen works with, you're active, you want to take ownership of your health, and you want to age gracefully. The problem is there is so much conflicting information out there about health and wellness, it's tough to know who to trust. Most providers are limited by what insurance will approve, so it can seem like they're only able to help you manage your health decline with more meds. On the Dr. Kris Life Podcast, you'll learn how you can regain your confidence in your health journey. You'll learn helpful knowledge about programs, supplements, peptides, and hormones that Dr. Kris has used with thousands of patients just like you to help them crush their goals and be their best selves. So if you're ready to take charge of your health and are wanting to stay active and healthy so you can be a better parent, partner, or lover, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Dr. Kris Podcast. Welcome back, lovers.
Love it.
So, weight loss debate, personalized care versus one size fits all. Let me tell you, I started doing smoothies and I got the blueberries and I'm putting in the whey and I'm putting in the creatine, and every time I turn around, don't put creatine and don't mix it with blueberries. And there's like, you're never in a position of confidence. So much conflicting information coming my way. What do you do about it, Dr. Kris?
Well, that's always the big debate, right? And so, the biggest thing is trying to find things that fit your lifestyle and that you can continue for the long haul. I always tell patients that, which diet do you like, Dr. Kris? And I'm like, well, I don't really even care for the word diet per se. To me, diet's always, when I'm using the word diet, it's like following a particular eating habit. Like people come in and say, I'm going to do keto. And I'm like, that's great. How long are you doing it for? Well, I'm going to try to do keto as long as I can. And they usually do it for maybe a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. When you look at studies on Atkins diet, which is basically keto diet, no one at 1 year was still on the Atkins diet at 1 year because it's too restrictive, right? And so I'm a much bigger fan of finding lifestyle changes that we can do, that we can live with, things that Steve Brown can do today, tomorrow, next year, and the year after that. And so, the big thing, like, first of all, let's go back to one thing you said. Creatine is amazing. Don't be talked out of creatine. There's actually a new study on how creatine is so positive for the brain and learning. And so, creatine. And that, by the way, anybody watching, that was not planned. I took my creatine right before I jumped on here. So that 5 grams of creatine today is also important for us aging individuals. And so that wasn't the purpose of this podcast to talk about creatine, but that's a really positive thing to do. So don't be talked out of creatine. All of us, there's a few things that we can just simply do that don't really have to do with necessarily weight loss, but creatine, vitamin D, collagen. Those are simple things that all of us aging individuals can do to feel better, do better, hurt less, repair better. So we'll leave it at that. But going back to what you were saying is first of all, there is not one way to do everything. Every person is different. I'm a huge intermittent fasting patient, and also I believe in it, and I preach it to my actual patients. But then not everybody will do that. So do you have to do intermittent fasting? No. There's just different ways to go about it, and I think that's why, because you know this, Steve, I do a lot now of lecturing and teaching other providers. And there's certain things that we can always use that have pretty good results, and that's perfectly fine. What you don't want to do is just treat every patient exactly the same as if this protocoled system is the way to go. So on one hand, I love protocols. And I when I lecture, I always try to make sure providers who are listening to me walk away with a protocol, but they have to understand that a protocol is flexible. It's not inflexible. One protocol doesn't fit everything. Like I've heard recently this, if you hear a provider talking about protocols, run for the hills. I think that was the exact quote a provider said on a podcast.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think I'm in between though. What I would say is it's okay to have protocols, but do you know how to tweak those protocols? Do you know how to flex those protocols? Do you know how to add things to it? Because some of the basics work, and that's okay. It's just that there's a lot of clinics out there that they don't even do the protocols very well. That's my first piece, is they're not doing those very well. And that's what I call shot clinics that you just come into and you get a shot of something to help you lose weight. And that's all they do. And there's no other parts of the process. As I always say with weight loss, the actual medication, let's just say, that's helping you lose weight, that's just a piece of the puzzle. That's not the puzzle. It's not the weight loss program. It's a piece of the weight loss program. And that's why you have to look at each patient individually. Some patients come in and they're really healthy metabolically. Some people come in and they're not healthy metabolically at all.
Yeah, I find that if you're trying to self-diagnose and you're following some good protocols, you still get worn down by all these conflicting inputs. And to have someone like you to go, to have a source of truth, so to speak, that we can stay on course, no matter how we're buffeted or the headwinds of all these conflicting opinions come into play. It's nice to have you to refer to and look at labs, to look at specifics, and know that we're going in the right direction and making progress.
Also looking at body scans. And so we always say that you got to look at the body scan of a person and hopefully even look at their exercise metabolism with like the PNOE testing that we do here. And labs, take those three things, put them together, talk to your patients. That's important. Talk to your patients. Okay. Figure out what their goals are. What are their lifestyle like? What are they doing now? What are they succeeding at? What are they failing at? We're all succeeding at some stuff and failing at others. And then put all that together. Like the example I'll use is like let's pretend I have a patient and we look at muscle and fat mainly. Okay. And so if I have a patient that I use the term over muscled, but I use that term in a positive way. Okay. So, Billy is over muscled, meaning he has excess muscle, but he's also got over adipose tissue. So he's overweight with fat, tons of muscle. So when I send Billy off to the gym, I'm not so concerned about Billy resistance training because Billy has a surplus of muscle. If we were to lose a pound or 2 or 3 of muscle mass while we're losing a bunch of fat, I'm not going to be concerned about that because he's got a bank account of muscle that's overflowing. So I always say it's like a billionaire losing 100,000. They're not crying over it. Okay. They'll replace it tomorrow. And so how I would have that person exercise at the gym, I would be going after that zone 2 metabolism that you and I've talked about before to get the most fatty acid oxidation, burning the most fats per minute during exercise so that we can get off that visceral fat. Versus, and we see this all the time, the person, let's say Susie comes in and Susie's weight is fine. But when you put Susie on the scale, she's actually what the slang term skinny fat. Her weight is okay, but her body fat is actually high and her muscle mass is low. That is a person I have to be concerned about as I put them on some form of weight loss program about conserving muscle mass or even adding to it. So my gym recommendations for Susie is going to be dramatically different from Billy, because we do need to mix in resistance training for that patient, along with some of these fat burning modalities in the gym. So you got to look at these things individually. And that's where understanding, you can have a protocol for like the over muscled, over fat person and the under muscled, over fat person, but are you scanning these patients? Are you looking at their exercise? Are you looking at their labs appropriately? Are you fixing their hormone deficiency? Maybe that's actually what's wrong with them. It's great if you put somebody on something for weight loss, but they still feel like shit because they're tired and sluggish because their hormones are all out of whack. Weight loss is typically not a pleasant experience. Okay. I don't think anyone ever writes a review and says he made weight loss fun. Right. I always try to tell patients, we don't try to make weight loss easy. We try to make weight loss easier. And that is very important that we understand that there's still work that has to be done. And so, trying to give you like there's nothing more depressing, I think, because let's face it, most of us don't love working out. We tolerate it, we maybe enjoy it, but we don't love it. It's not number one on our list for most. There are people like that, and God bless them. I wish I was that person. I could find 20 other things I would rather do than work out if I had my druthers. But can you imagine going to the gym, working out, doing all of the wrong stuff? So you don't love it, but you're doing it wrong, but you think you're doing it right. And there's no one there to guide you. And guys, anybody listening to this, I'm sorry. Most trainers don't usually always know what they're doing. There's some really great trainers out there. And by the way, I'm not trying to throw all the trainers under the bus, but we can be the trainer's best friend because we can send a plan with them to their trainer to help them get the results for these patients, because no one looks like a bigger rock star than the trainer whose patient gets into great shape, right? No matter how good they do with the job that they're doing for the patient.
One size fits all. So a lot of people are just hoping that, hey, if I take that shot, that popular thing they keep talking about, that's all I need to do. But or they're going, maybe if I just go work out, that's all I need to do. But that's not true. We need to take a lot of
or eat a little less, right?
Right. So maybe I'm going to intermittent fast and that's all I need to do. But it's not true. We need to go about this in a strategic way based on a custom from the how you've done an investigation, and then you go, here's a plan, a more comprehensive plan that'll get you to where you want to go in a way that you're comfortable with.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this isn't rocket science, in my opinion. Now, new providers to this kind of maybe think of it like that. Maybe it's because we've been doing it a long time, but it's just looking at the pieces, putting the puzzle together, and then giving the real plan to the patient that, again, isn't easy, but it's easier. And then they start seeing results, whenever they do go to the gym. Also, the stress patients. There's a lot of patients that are super, super stressed. Like I always say, the CEO types, they come in and we call them wired and tired is kind of the phrase for that. They're wired to the hilt. They're sleeping like shit. They feel like shit. They're wired. They're tired. You got to fix that a lot of the times because you can do everything with those patients. And that goes like cortisol levels, looking at cortisol levels. And that's why, like whenever I lecture to docs, we also talk about when the patient doesn't lose weight, what do you do? Because sometimes you can do everything you think is right. Let's back up. There's always going to be the patient that looks you in the eyes, dead in your eyes, and says, I'm doing everything you say, but in your heart, they're not. Okay. There's always going to be those patients, but I have patients that I truly know when they look me in the eyes, they tell me I've been doing it. They've been doing it and they're not having the success that we both feel like they should. And that's when you got to start looking outside the box. And that's where, looking at stress levels, cortisol levels. There's a lot of good products out there that, oxytocin nasal spray, DHHB, dihydrohinochial B. We can go on and on. There's these different compounds that we can use with these patients then to start reducing stress. Of course, my joke is always, if you figure out how to completely eliminate stress, let me know. I would like it. We live in a stressful world, right? 2025 is stressful. These things here are stressful. I really somewhat and envious of past generations that didn't have cell phones and emails. If you couldn't answer that phone on the wall with a 30-foot cord, people couldn't get a hold of you. And I think that was a better time, but we're not changing, so it's okay. Looking at your food quality, trying to stay more organic and more hormone free. I'm a huge advocate of staying away from seed oils. I'm very hopeful that RFK is going to start forcing restaurants to let you know what oils they're cooking with, really trying to stay with avocado or extra virgin olive oil or coconut oil, trying to stay with these better oils. I was at Costco this week, and it was really nice to see that they had actual real Italian extra virgin olive oil. Pay the extra $2, get the real stuff. When you get the cheap olive oil, the rules that America follows are not nearly as stringent as Italian rules, and they can have pesticides in them, and they're just not processed the right way. They may be okay, you just don't know. So something simple like, people don't think about sometimes the oils they're cooking in and what the amount of inflammation that's occurring. Alcohol. How much alcohol, Steve, is okay? The answer is none. There is no amount of alcohol that's healthy. We used to spread the BS that 1 to 2 glasses of wine at night was good for your heart. Well, the American Heart Association is very clear now. The only amount of alcohol they allow is 0. So I'm not saying don't go out and drink. I'm saying minimize your drinking. That's another thing that you can do. There's so many little things, and that's why it's just really important. Like, I sat down with a new client the other day, and he said, first of all, he'd gone somewhere and he had gotten the popular shot, and this is a pretty big boy. Okay. So, we're not a little boy, we're a big boy, obese category. Okay. Had lost a little bit of weight, maybe like 10, 15 pounds, should have lost more. And we got to talking, and I mentioned the word like, do you drink? Yeah, I drink a little bit. How much do you drink? Well, come to find out, he drinks a lot. And, that hadn't really been discussed with him. And I had to make the clear statement, I cannot help you if you're not willing to give up the excessive drinking. Like, I can't. The inflammation, the calories, it all just is insurmountable. I would say in Parker County, Texas, where I'm at, Dr. Pepper. God almighty, do they love Dr. Pepper. And so, I can't get you to health if you're going to drink 4 Dr. Peppers a day. Like, there's just certain things that we just have to agree that have to leave the diet. But, I would go to a patient, I would say, if you're not willing to eliminate soda out of your diet, how serious are you really about being healthy, right? I mean, it would be like saying, well, I want to be healthy, but I'm still going to smoke. Like, come on. Like, there's a few things that we have to be able to see eye to eye on to help patients.
Do you think using the term, let's say if I came to you, when people come to me, they ask for a certain solution, but I know they really need this different solution. But the words they use are only words they have. And right now, people come to you and, Dr. Kris, I need to lose weight. But can that be translated to them saying, look, I'm starting to see myself and I need to make some changes because I'm aging and I'm not feeling like I used to. Is there a better way to look at this, or how would you phrase that?
So we actually don't really like the term weight loss. And so we try to stay away from it the best we can. But of course, everybody uses that term, right? Weight loss, weight loss, weight loss. And we see a lot of patients. Let's go back to what I call her Susie, the skinny fat girl. She doesn't need to lose weight. She needs to change her body composition. So we like to call it more like metabolism. We actually really like the term longevity, like looking at your longevity, which is your health span, how long you're going to live, but also your quality of life, mixing those two things in, because you and I've talked about this a lot. Who's going to sign up for living a long time, but the last 20 years sucking? Like, no, thank you. Like, just knock me out at 20 years earlier. And let's call it good. So, it's that old saying, like, do you want to be 80 and, pole vaulting, or do you want to be 80 drilling on yourself in a wheelchair? That's an easy choice. So we're really moving our terminology to trying to create longevity protocols for these patients. Again, things that we can do forever, not things that we're going to do for a month or two. Looking at metabolism and body composition as not a 1 day or 1 month fix, but as a lifetime fix. If you got to lose 60 pounds, you didn't gain 60 pounds overnight. You're not going to lose it overnight. Giving these patients realistic timeframes. I gave the gentleman we talked about an 18-month goal. I said, hey, this is 18-month protocol that we're going to work with you on, and then we're going to tweak it as we go, but that's what we're going to do. We have to have realistic timeframes. So I really like just using the word body composition, metabolism, longevity. I know those are buzzwords, but they really do fit what we do in our practice.
I think what got me a little more serious was the thinking about, what am I doing that's impacting my not my mental health, but my mental clarity. I need to be sharp. I need to be focused. I need to not want to nap every afternoon. And when I started looking at my diet and what my lifestyle, what can I do to improve that? And this aligns with longevity. This aligns with good body composition.
Yeah, because who out there listening wants to lose their brain capacity, right? Their mental capacity. I think that would be the saddest thing ever. And I've extensively worked with dementia patients for a very long time. I still run 2 memory care units right now. That is my biggest fear, is ending up in a memory care unit. I have great compassion for those patients, but especially their family members. I have probably more compassion for them because they're living it. The patient themselves, they don't probably know for the most part what's going on. So sad. That's just not what I want to do. And these days, with everything that we know with longevity, with our relationship, like with Dr. Goodnow and prodrome scans and supplementation, I just really think that most of us don't have to go down that path. Now, is it an easy path to go? No, not always. It can be somewhat complicated, but those are conversations we can have. We can go really in depth with those type patients with blood work and scans, or we can go like high level, or more higher level, easy stuff like supplements that we know are great for the brain. So there's just different ways to approach it. And that's the biggest thing with patients is, I always say, I don't set your budget. So you set your budget. Some of these things are inexpensive. Some of these things might be put in the term of expensive, depending on, expensive to one person is inexpensive to the next. And some people are willing to spend different amounts of money on their health. We can come up with something, though, that's going to improve the patient no matter what they want to spend. I guess that's what I try to say is like, I like to give options and say, like, here's A, B, C, and D, and they usually escalate. And like, I would recommend D, but you can start with A, so that patients kind of know what their different options are.
One of the testimonials your wife shared one time with me was how the mental fog and her motivation just really improved once her hormones started to kick in the process. And again, this is one of the things that you do that improves all these the collateral benefits.
Yeah. So my wife is now 53. I'm married to an older woman. I'm 52 for another 2 weeks. And so I always like to give her hell because we're 6 weeks apart in age. But really of course, we treat menopause all the time and have for a very long time. And I will say that I didn't truly understand menopause until I was married to a woman who went through menopause in front of my face. And it was dramatic. It was fast. It wrecked her quality of life for about 3 to 6 months until we were able to get her stabilized. It was during the pandemic. Happened she started having symptoms right around her 48th birthday. And so it was very eye-opening to me to be around a person personally, intimately going through menopause and how that affected her. The good news is she knew what it was. She knew we knew how to fix it. She was able to verbalize what she was experiencing. And she really personally, along with a couple of very special physicians in my life, really changed my outlook. I always liked estrogen for females. I now love estrogen for females. I was kind of hoodwinked early on that estrogen is dangerous for women and like, oh my God, they're going to get breast cancer and have strokes and heart attacks, which we all know that's bullshit. Even though Women's Health Initiative that originally said that has admitted that, okay, but a lot of physicians don't know that their data was wrong, that estrogen is good for females, that it protects their heart and their brains and their bones, and makes them feel better and brings their sex life back, all of those things that are so important, makes their skin look better. So we now going through that with my wife, I truly understand the why women need their estrogen and how important it is. And even men need their estrogen actually. So, super important things that we do here in the office is just, again, listening to our patients. I think that's the most important thing, is listening. I think so many patients today by the way, going back to the guy who came here, he went to a doctor and I said, so we talked for like an hour on all my new patients are an hour, and we got done. And he goes, Doc, you said more in the first 10 minutes than all of my visits wrapped up together. And he goes, I don't even tell you how much in the 1 hour that I've learned today. And he says, I was just given a prescription for a shot. And I was told to take the shot once a week, and I was told what side effects could occur, and I was told what maybe to do if the side effects did occur, and that was the extent of my visit. And he said 5-6 minutes. And again, I'm sure that doctor meant well. I'm sure that doctor was busy. I'm not necessarily throwing that doctor under the bus. I'm just saying that's what's different about this kind of a practice. We're a cash pay practice. We know we're more expensive than going to your primary care physician with a copay. We understand that. We hope that you give us a shot and then you see the value in what we do, and yet you see that why sometimes paying for something is an advantage. I always say you also got to put a little skin in the game to make it worth it sometime too. I tell people that I educate with a couple of organizations, and one of the organizations likes to give away their trainings to their doctors. And I always say, I think right there is where you're messing up. Don't give anything away with training. The reason is whenever I go into something and it's free, I already naturally think it's not that great. When I have to pay real, hard-earned money for something, it locks me in. I'm paying attention. I'm listening. I'm trying to do good, because if I'm going to go drop money on something, then I don't want to waste it. I'm not that wealthy, and I can't just throw money out the door and say, who cares? So I think sometimes, believe it or not, paying for a service that you see the value in, but also it locks you in and dedicates you a little bit more.
Well, I think it highlights also that one size fits all solution, that one shot or that one thing. We get these ideas in our head, but when we come and talk to someone like you, we get to consider other options that may be the real cause of what we're trying to fix, and we just don't know.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, this has been an excellent conversation, Dr. Kris. I've enjoyed it. I think folks that would work with you, obviously they're going to spend time. They're going to get questions answered. I've had that same experience. You go in, you see them for 10 minutes. They go, keep doing what you're doing, Steve. He doesn't even know. How does he know what I'm doing?
Well, right? Unfortunately, as I tell everybody, I used to do that for a living. And I am somewhat protective of the doctors, because I understand the environment they're under and how they're all trying to make a living and keep everything going. And that's really the amount of time that they have. I used to have 7 to 10 minutes with a patient, because there's got to be some hellos and some goodbyes. So I had 15 minutes total. Hey, Steve, how are you? How's the wife? How's the kids? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's get to work. And then there was a little wrap up. So at about 7, 8, 9 minutes, maybe 10, if I really did a good job to actually see the patient. It's not very long. 10 minutes goes by in a snap. And, the best I could do was bring people back frequently and try to break down the next problem. And that's why I realized, my story, but that's why I came home and told my wife one day I quit my job, because I just can't do this anymore. Again, I always say quitting my job was a 6-month notice. It wasn't quite as dramatic as it sounds. But yeah, that's why I realized that's not why I went to medical school. I want to be able to talk to patients and really help them. So anyway, if you think we can help you, we'd love to.
Yeah. So if someone wants to reach out to you, it's theresearchclinic.com. How can they engage?
Through the website, if you want to, you can just click on the links. It's pretty simple. Or you can give us a call at our phone number, which is on it, 817-599-9902. Or, local people, they love to stop by. I mean, we still have tons of people that just stop in and say hello, and maybe they just like talking to the ladies, but, have conversations with them, get the conversation started, and we can take it from there.
All right. Rolling it in the outro. Good job today, Dr. Kris. Thanks for joining the Dr. Kris Podcast. If you learned something today and you want to connect and get more information, visit our website, www.drkris.life, where you can find more great information or even schedule a time to learn how you can engage with Dr. Kris. Be sure to follow, like, share, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Dr. Kris Podcast. To the lake this weekend?
No, we're going to my A&M this weekend. My daughter's sorority's family weekend is this weekend, so that's what we'll be doing.
All right.
Weather looks good, though.
All right. Awkward pause.